I'm happy to be here for you to help you. My role here is to support Hebrew teachers. So let's have fun with it. It's not easy to teach a language, so we're always looking for innovative and exciting ways to make kids, engaged. So tonight is a pleasure and a privilege to introduce you our presenter, Stephanie Carlson. And we are so lucky because she's been involved with Hebrew Movement probably since its inception,
not quite that long, but for
a while.
Yeah.
So happened to be I was doing some research on the internet and different innovative ways to teach Hebrew, and found the Hebrew Movement. The base of it is in Cleveland, and contacted Nicole Moskowitz, the writer of the guide of the curriculum for Hebrew Movement, and I said, "Would you consider coming to Houston?" And she said, "Oh, one of our teachers, our trained teachers, is actually moving to Houston." I was like, "Isn't that wonderful?" So here she is, and she'll tell you a little bit more about this. And tonight, what you're going to get is a taste of this modality. It is not a curriculum, as she will explain, and it enhances any Hebrew curriculum. It's a fun, engaging action type of thing. And there is an online webinar. It's a 10-class series that the Federation is willing to sponsor at 75%. It would be maybe $25 for your school to chip in for it. So if you're interested in developing this deeper, let us know, be in touch with me. And we would love to, even if you're not going to do the 10-class series, is to develop a community of practice of teachers who are interested in this. And maybe you could get together every now and then or be in touch via a Google group or on Edmodo, which is the education Facebook, so it's not a Facebook, but it's an education social media thing that we have here in the Federation. So without further ado, I'm introducing to you, and I'm saying hi to our Zoom, those who are joining us through Zoom, because this network, Congregational School Network, includes about 15 schools, and we have a very brave, two brave people, one who came from Clear Lake, and Dan that came all the way from Spring. And some people that don't get that badge, no, I'm being silly, could not make that drive, are tuning in via Zoom, and it's going to be recorded and sent to everybody as well. Okay.
Okay. Well,
now the people at home get to see this screen as well, and so we're including them like this.
Okay. Great. So, shalom, welcome everybody. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me and for the lovely introduction. I'm Stephanie Carlson. I am brand new to Houston. I moved here in July to take a new role as Director of Congregational Learning at Emmanuel. It's a new position and it's a new adventure, and it got a whole lot more adventuresome not too long after I got here. So that's been fun. So my history with Hebrew Through Movement goes back about 10 years. We moved to Cleveland in 2008. And at that time, let's see, does this thing work? There we go. At that time, Dr. Lifsha Schachter, who was at the time on the faculty of what was then called Siegel College and has since been merged into Case Western University, she was working on an adaptation for teaching Hebrew through the principles of James Asher's total physical response. So what does that mean, right? So it's a way of teaching Hebrew through movement, hence the new name, right? Hebrew through movement. So for a long time, it was called TPR. And some of you may have done a workshop years ago, even called TPR. Some of you may have seen it online. The program has evolved over the years. When Siegel College was merged into Case, the program, the project moved under the auspices of the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland, which I was a part when I lived in Cleveland. And the current curriculum guide, which I have here, that you can see, was developed by Nechama Salomon Moskowitz, whose name you might recognize. She's written a lot of Jewish education curriculum. This curriculum guide was written originally in 2012, and this is a brand new update that just came out this year. One of the amazing things about the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland and their curriculum program is that this is available online for free. The curriculum guide, you can download it as a PDF off the website, which is part of why I'm talking about. There is also, as Deborah mentioned, there's also a 10-part, 10-hour asynchronous training course online that's run through the JECC. That's not free, but it's arguably free. And to date, more than 1,000 teachers from more than 350 programs around the world have taken the training. So the program is being implemented in small schools, in large schools, in day schools, in supplementary schools, lots and lots of different venues, in lots and lots of different settings. So what is it, right? The goal of Hebrew Through Movement is to introduce Hebrew in a way that is playful and meaningful, and that we lost our camera somehow, that creates a positive first link between children and Hebrew. It is brain-based learning. It's learning that is supported, all right, James Asher's work, he's a developmental psychologist. So it's supported by brain research. The point of Hebrew Through Movement is not to teach conversational. The point of Hebrew Through Movement is, and it's also not to replace the curriculum that you're already teaching. When Deborah said it's not a curriculum, that's not quite, it is very much a curriculum in and of itself. It is a very structured program, but it's not intended to replace your Hebrew curriculum. What it is intended to do is to give foundation in oral language, in listening to Hebrew, so that when,
sorry, I'm just seeing if we can.
Oh, that we can get us back as the Zoom?
How do you know we're not on it?
Because Cheryl's on it. Yeah, it should be.
I think we're okay.
Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. So Hebrew Through Movement is a way, so it's the point of it is to create an oral foundation so that when we go to introduce Hebrew reading and Hebrew writing and Hebrew speaking, if we're introducing Hebrew speaking, right? So it started as, I'll back up a little bit. So it started as a way of thinking about, when Dr. Sheffer first started thinking about the movement, she started thinking about ways to challenge or uproot the way that supplementary schools in particular teach Hebrew. In many, so this is going back 10, 15 years ago, many supplementary schools are teaching really only decoding. right? There's very little meaning involved, and when you start, or meaning comes later, right? So when kids start their Hebrew learning, they're starting with alphabet. They're starting with, this is a picture of a thing and of a letter, and I'm going to make this sound, right? And they're very frequently asked to make those sounds by themselves, right? Read out loud for the class. And those sounds don't necessarily connect to anything that have meaning, right? Because they're the meaning of the language is something they learn later. Which is, if you think about it, kind of the opposite of the way that we learn language naturally, right? When you were a baby, your mom or your dad or your caregivers did not come up to you and show you a picture and say A, B, right? They said, look at the doggy. Let's go to the park. Come here. Sit down. And you listened to language, and you did what you heard for a really long time before you ever spoke, right? So that's what the idea behind Hebrew through movement is. The idea behind Hebrew through movement is to give kids that same kind of learning in Hebrew that you had in whatever your native language was when you were first born. Other things that Hebrew through movement tries to capture that are similar to that parent-child relationship, that very early language learning relationship, are that, so we talked about we learn by moving around and doing, right? Come here, go there. It's also an environment of positive emotional support. When parents talk to their children, to babies, if you listen, they speak in really upbeat tones a lot of the time, and they're excited, and they're happy, right? Oh, look at your baby, so cute, right? That's what kids do. So that positivity creates a positive connection with language for the child. Wouldn't it be cool if we could have that in a Hebrew classroom? Children also learn when they feel safe from the embarrassment of not knowing. That's what I said earlier about read out loud in front of the class. Okay. So in Hebrew through movement, we don't ask kids to do things by themselves. We do this together. We might do it in 2s and 3s and 4s and pairs, but we're not singling kids out. And we're certainly not shaming them if they get it wrong. They learn when they can move forward at their own pace. So the Hebrew through movement program, as we'll see, is a really structured program. Words are introduced in a very careful sequence. And they're introduced only a few at a time, but we're only introducing new material when the group is ready. This is not the kind of curriculum where where Kita Aleph is doing one thing and you must complete this by the end of the year, right? That's not how it works. And again, we learn best when learning is joyful and playful. Wouldn't it be nice to have fun? Okay. And I'll share the slides. You don't have to worry about taking notes or taking pictures or anything like that. It's set up on a PowerPoint, but it's also Google Slides, and I'll send you the link. You can have it.
We're going to watch some clips and videos as well that will make you
and we're going to
drive the point.
Do it.
We're going to do it. I'm ready for the movement. So this is not fun, right? This is not an immersion program.
kids, and in fact, so it was brought home to me on Sunday that I had done a really poor job. We are using Hebrew through Movement and Emmanuel with our pre-K through second graders this year. I'm thrilled to have found a teacher who was willing to be my Nachshon and do the training and do this stuff. But I realized that because we lost our beginning of the year faculty development day, I hadn't really explained to everybody what it was. And so we had our kindergarten and first grade, or pre-K and kindergarten teacher meeting yesterday. And one of the kindergarten teachers, veteran teacher, wonderful, sweet, said to me, she's like, I really like Miss Kindle, and I think she does a great job of getting the kids excited and everything, but I don't think she's teaching them right. I said, what do you mean? She said, she never gives them a chance to speak. My mistake, right? Because just as moms and dads don't ask their babies to speak until they're ready, right? Which may be until they're 1 or 2, right? I had a child who didn't speak hardly at all until he was almost 3. And then you couldn't shut him up. But we wait. The goal of Hebrew Through Movement is not to get kids producing oral language. The goal of Hebrew Through Movement is to expose kids to Hebrew in a fun and exciting way, but then they're going to build that vocabulary so that then when we go to introduce prayer and when we go to introduce decoding, they say, oh, I know that word. Okay, it's also not Simon Says. It might look like Simon Says. It's fun and it's lively, but again, there's not competition, and new words are added very systematically. This is a it's not, as we said, it's not intended as a replacement for traditional Hebrew curricula. We're giving them a foundation and a base and an enrichment. And I was asked to point out this. So this is actually one of the areas where I had a difference of opinion with Dr. Check. So Lipsa said, you have to be native. You have to be fluent. You have to be able to have a conversation in Hebrew to be able to do so. I'm not fluent in Hebrew. I'm not conversant in Hebrew. It's really sick.
Yes.
You need to be ahead of your students, right? And it's like anything else. You need to be ahead of your students. You need to be comfortable with Hebrew. You need to be able to look at the curriculum guide and that doesn't have any translations or transliterations in it and be able to use it. If you go on Facebook, on the Hebrew, there's a Facebook group called Hebrew Moves Me. That's a Facebook user group for teachers of Hebrew Through Movement.
Oh, that's nice.
But don't tell our guests later.
I want to point out something, that the reality is that day school teachers a lot of times are very fluent, but tonight we're having a mixed group here. The congregational teacher is not necessarily fluent, so we don't want you to be intimidated. You should realize that it is possible.
It is absolutely possible. And the reason it's possible is because the language is controlled, it's scripted, and it's planned in advance. This is not a game. This is a learning tool. Okay? So you're writing out your scripts, you know what you're going to say. You're not being caught off guard by words that you don't recognize. Right? And because the teacher is driving the speaking and is driving the language, you have more control over what's going on in the classroom. The other thing is that sometimes native speakers get really frustrated because it sounds like baby talk. because it is. Right? We use infinitives when we teach verbs. And the reason we use infinitives when we teach verbs is because otherwise we would have to be teaching conjugation right off the bat, right? We'd have to be teaching feminine and masculine endings immediately, right? So we use the infinitives, we use a simplified grammar, we use a lot of excitement, and again, we recognize that the goal here is not fluency. The goal here is exposure and familiarity. So, you thought I was going to say that. Okay, so one of the most important things that you do on your very first lesson of Hebrew through movement is you set the expectations with your kids. This is something new. We're going to learn Hebrew today in a new way. I'm really excited to bring this to you. We have 2 rules here. Listen and do, and please don't speak in English. Otherwise you get kids translating for their minds. Again, it's not all time, it's not immersion, but you want to be in Hebrew after the first lesson. Like the first lesson, you're going to set the groundwork in English. But after the first lesson, you want to be in Hebrew most of the time. Because you don't want to be translating. You want to break that time. So I'm really excited to do this with you. So you're going to watch what I do, and you're going to listen to what I say, and you're going to do what I do, and then eventually you're going to be able to listen to what I say, and you're going to be able to do it by yourself. Sound fun? Yay! Okay. I need it. And actually, I think what I'll do for our friends at home here is I will stop the share or pause the share. Wait a minute. Stop the share. There we go. So we make sure that they can see. Okay. People at home, you should be moving too. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So. Listen first. Listen first. Listen first. Listen So yan. Yoppi. Lalaka, no shevet. Latzor. Lawrence. Latzor. Lawrence. I'm done.
Your motion was this. Your motion was this.
My motion is to you. To you.
But it was confusing.
Shevet. Lakum. Latzor. We need to type them. Latzor. Latzor. Lawrence. So that's about as much vocabulary as you would add, as you would do in a first lesson. Normally, we wouldn't add more than 3 words at a time. So what did you notice? What did you notice? Everybody started laughing. Everybody started laughing.
We're having fun.
We're having fun. Pardon? It was easy.
Playful.
It was playful.
We know more than 3 words, more than 3 new words.
We knew more than 3 new words. We learned 5 words, right? We learned 5 words.
There was no challenge of speaking.
There was no challenge of speaking. Now, there were some people who repeated the words after me. And that was okay. That was okay. It wasn't expected. It wasn't requested.
Kylie said no one got singled out.
No one got singled out. Thank you, Kylie.
Cheryl said it was fun.
Except you. Oh. So the first several lessons are about building that foundation, what we call foundational language. Right? So before we can start adding in new things, more things, we have to do movements, right? Before you can start adding do things with, right? You gotta know what you're doing. We learn to do first. Right? We will do and then we will understand. Somebody's smart. Okay, let me get my
Let me get my presentation back here somehow.
Can I add one thing?
Sure, you can add as many things as you want.
You didn't have to be able to read Hebrew.
That's true. And you didn't have to, and in fact, so one of the things I didn't ask was how many people here would say that they speak Hebrew?
I mean, are you talking fluently or passively?
I'm just putting it out there. Right? I'm not, no definitions.
He's definitely passable.
Um,
Oh, Russell?
you know, so, you know, so the point is that you don't have to have any knowledge to start with, right? You can come in, not you, but your students can come in totally cold, never having done this before, and be successful right away. Right away. Pardon? Action speaks. And did you notice that when you started anticipating what I was going to do, I changed it? Okay. So there is method to this, right? Like I said before, this is not just a game of Simon Says. So we start with a warm-up. We use previously heard commands that you're already familiar with. You're reinforcing the learning that they've done in the past. And then you're going to add new things. So you spend the first few minutes making sure that you start with that atmosphere of success. We want the kids to feel like they can do this. You know, so for example, after children have learned the word for book, you might have a child place a book from the window and then have everyone jump to it. We didn't get to put someone to it. That's a good idea. No more than 3 new terms at a time. We start with verbs. We add a couple of adverbs. Then we can start building nouns, right? Again, using the verbs in the infinitive so that we're not worried about grammar. We're learning through, and then we integrate old and new learning. Right? So 3-part structure to the lesson, right? We start with what we know so that we can start with success and feel good. Then we bring in some new stuff so that we're challenged and we're excited. And then we bring in the other. These are things we talked about, right? It's playful. We're gonna have fun. Oftentimes I have kids asking me, can we play the Hebrew game today? By the way, this also makes a really great sensory break. If you have kids who, you know, sometimes even an hour and a half is a really long time to sit still. This makes a really great sensory break. So it's experiential, and you'll see in a minute. I'm going to show you a video of a more advanced class. But we use props, we use pictures, we use manipulatives. We don't use flashcards. Or if we use flashcards, we use them as props, and we use them later, right? So the print association comes later, but we're not drilling who can read this. I mean, I love to play games with flashcards. That's when I'm teaching Hebrew decoding, when I'm teaching regular reading class. I love flashcards because it frees us from the. I don't know if you've noticed yet. I don't like to sit still. And so flashcards let us move around the room even when we're not doing it. That's my ad for flashcards. But in this case, when we use flashcards, we're using them as manipulators, right? Laleket el Aleph, Laleket el Baruch, right? We're using language patterns, right? So the grammar, again, simplified grammar, but we can pick up on we can pick up on the words and we can pick up on the grammar to some extent just by hearing the repeated patterns. And you'll see that happen in the video clip that I'm going to show you in a minute.
Is this all as a group?
It's a group or it's small groups. And so we didn't get one of the first sets of nouns we learn is by name and by month, so that we can have all the girls do something, we can have all the boys do something, or we can call people out by their names in groups. But we're never asking anybody to do anything individually. It's one of the focuses. Based on novelty. When you started to predict what I was going to do, I changed it. And not only that, once we get to adding in nouns and objects and things, and you'll see this again, and you'll see this in the video also, being silly with it. So if you can get a kid to raise their eyebrow, they're going to remember what you said, right? So once you get to the, you'll see things like, Lasim et harosh al kiseh, right? Those become the kinds of commands. That was another thing that came up in our faculty meeting the other day, was Kendall asked the kids to stand on the chairs. Is that allowed? Because they'll remember it next time. And it helps to teach the difference between L and O. Did you really say stand on the chair? Yep, sure did. They drew the line at standing on the tables, the classroom teachers. And again, it's systematic. The curriculum guide, like I said, is available online. It is divided into the foundational unit, which is where you learn kind of the basic commands that you build everything else on. And then there are units for holidays. There are units for synagogue language. There's a unit for prayer. And then there is also work for integrating print.
Is it possible to get a hard copy of this one instead of putting it online?
You can print it.
Yeah, it's a PDF.
It's a PDF. You can print it. Okay. So how do we do this? If you want to do this yourself, how do you go about doing it? It's ideally taught in high energy sessions of 15 minutes or less. This is not something you want to spend an hour on. Just like a lot of language learning, it's done better, like your workouts too, for that matter, right? Shorter, more often is better than longer. The curriculum is designed to work pretty well with once a week. So 15 minutes once a week really moves kids through and builds significant learning. It works better with fewer people, right? We got a little tight in here, and we would have gotten even tighter if we started doing more complicated. Right? We need room to move. We need props. We need posters. That's how you start getting that print to or sound to print association getting made. If you have posters that as you can order from the JECC, they have a set of posters that have like the pictures of a picture of somebody running and it says the rules. They have a picture of somebody jumping. You can use those. And then the training is really important. Because that's not a game. Learning how to do this and learning how to do it well takes some time. And you don't have to be fluent, but you have to kind of know what you're doing. It's a 10-hour class, and that really is sufficient to get pretty good at it. But then the mentoring and community practice and being able to bounce ideas off one another, because different people implement this in different ways. This is meant to supplement what you're already doing. You can, if you're directors thinking about this, Classroom teachers can do this, or you can do it on a specialist model. I chose to implement it at Emmanuel at first with a specialist, just because that was the quickest way to get started. Okay, so then this is Maura Marcia Anushi, and she is one of the sort of pioneers of teaching Hebrew through movement, and she was one of the teachers who kind of helped to really bring the theory into the classroom in practice to bridge that gap. And so what I'm going to show you, this is a 6-minute video of a class doing one of the holiday modules about Pesach. And I'm going to tell you a story about what happened.
להרים את הידיים, לקום. לשים ידיים על הראש ולקפוץ אל הדלת. להסתובב, לעצור ולרוץ אל שולחן א'. חמץ. Chametz.
Notice her use of caps.
Chametz. 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 Matzah. 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 Matzot. 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 Chametz. Matzah. Matzot. Sid ושרה, לקום, לשים ידיים על הראש, להסתובב אל השולחן, לאט לאט, לאט לאט, לעצור, להצביע על חמץ, להרים חמץ, לקחת חמץ, להרים חמץ, להרים,
You notice when they hesitated, she did it with them.
יופי. לקחת מצה, לקחת מצה, להרים את המצה, לשים מצה על הברכיים, כולם להרים חמץ, כולם להוריד חמץ, כולם להרים מצה, כולם לשים מצה על הראש, כולם לשים מצה על הבטן, כולם לשים מצה על השולחן. לשבת, מורנשי, לשבת מסובים. לשבת מסובים. לשבת יושבים. לשבת מסובים. לשבת יושבים. כולם לשבת מסובים. לשבת יושבים. כולם לקום. כולם לקפוץ אל הדלת. כולם לשבת על יד הדלת. כולם לשבת יושבים. כולם לשבת מסובים. כולם לקום. שולחן א', לקום. ללכת אל חמץ. להצביע על חמץ. יופי, חמץ? כן או לא? כן, כן, יופי. לשבת על הכיסא. לרוץ על הכיסא ולשבת. שולחן ג' לקום. לרוץ אל מסובים. לרוץ אל מסובים. להצביע על מסובים. מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים ביושבינו במסובים, ביושבינו במסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים. יופי, מצוין, למחוא כפיים, כל הכבוד.
No, don't do that. Okay. Okay. So what did you notice? What did you notice there?
She didn't use any English when she was talking with them.
True, she didn't use any English.
No
She also-
translation.
She also didn't correct the child that picked up the matzot instead of matzah. She let it be, right? Yeah,
Yeah, right. So she didn't correct him,
right.
right, or embarrass him, sure.
That's one of the things, one of the goals is not to embarrass them for not knowing.
Right, so he had matzot, not matzah.
Right.
Now, if he had picked up chametz,
She may have said something.
she probably would have repeated it and picked up a challah or something, right? So how do corrections happen? How did corrections happen here? That wasn't the only mistake. How did corrections happen?
Demonstrate.
Yeah, she repeated it numerous times. Meaning like, and then she went back to it. She was like, matzah, 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 matzah. And just.
And when the girls didn't know the harim, when they just kind of stood there,
She
Demonstrated.
Right, she-
modeled it.
she modeled it, she demonstrated it, right? She didn't say, oh, you don't know the right? She modeled it, she demonstrated, she did it with them. So, so the story that I was told is that at the end of this class, these are like fourth graders, I think. And this is a while ago because I recognized one of the girls in the class, she's a senior in high school now. But and by the way, you can do this with it's been used with great success in early childhood programs and on up. And again, one of the beautiful things about the fact that this is a structured program, but it's not it's not a textbook series, or it's modular and it's flexible, is that you can start with any age. It's not like if they didn't start at a kindergarten, they can't do it when they're but so Marcia said that when she finished this lesson, the kids were sitting there with this really strange look on their face. And they didn't get up to go run off to go to the next class and the next thing. They were just kind of sitting there, almost like in shock. Sitting there. And she asked them, she said, you know, what's that? What on? My spouse, what on? And they said to her, they said, you know, we have been learning the 4 questions in religious school for 5 years, and we never understood what it meant until now. And we never really understood what it meant. Even if we knew, even if we sang it in English, we never really understood it until now. So it's a real demonstration of the power that this learning method can have. That by creating an environment, I mean, what did you notice about the room where she was teaching this?
School of Hebrew.
So she had a lot of things up on the walls. She had a lot of things on the tables, and she had the things that were on the walls matched the things that were on the tables. Right? She had the posters of the 4 questions up on the walls. And if there are many other videos on the website that we won't watch right now. But you know, you can watch probably 6 or 8 videos. If you go on the Hebrews in Movement website, you can watch 6 or 8 of these videos without having to take the class. The demonstration videos.
There's so much material that I was confused when I went on it. It's almost like you can gain so much just from the website, not even signing for the 10 classes, but the 10 classes go into it more in depth. But as she said, the curriculum guide is free, downloadable, and the videos are very incredible.
What the classwork does is it gives you the progression. It gives you the instruction yourself, and it goes a lot deeper into the theory and the principles than we can do in a short session here. Maybe you really want to listen. Yeah, question.
Sheila, how long the students have been in this class? Is it from the beginning of the year to Pesach?
So these students, no, this was probably their 2nd or 3rd year.
So it took time for them to develop it.
Yeah, so it takes time. So it's possible that you could get to this point in 1 year with a really motivated class, but it's not likely. I mean, if you listen to the number of different, she has many verbs in there. She had prepositions in there, right? Right, the shevet al yad. So there was quite a bit of foundational learning. So like I said, the curriculum guide was recently revised. So the foundational language, the foundational unit is where you get sort of the basic, you build the toolbox with your kids, right? You build the toolbox for learning, right? So the basic movements are their toolbox for learning, and their scaffold on which you hang all the rest of the vocabulary for learning. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know if you, after the class has been in practice,
Mm-hmm.
if you ever let the students that are interested to be
To
a
lead?
model and to lead.
Yes. Yes.
This way, the other ones will become more
Yes.
confident in saying those words.
Yes. Eventually, and voluntarily.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're an AC program, and we have really all the way up to 10th grade, but in my particular area is in DC. What we find in our school is we have kind of half Hebrew speakers and half English speakers, and so it makes it a very interesting dynamic. So, I was trying to think, well, how would I implement this in our school? And really, we would probably do it both ways. in Hebrew to, English to Hebrew and then back. So that, you know, when you said, what you said about the children kind of leading it or being a part of it, it seems like that would be a good idea.
Oh, that could be really cool, to have that kind of cross-pollination where the English-speaking kids maybe lead for the Hebrew-speaking kids and vice versa. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
I mean, this method, right? I mean, Asher's method has been used to teach. He initially thought of it as an ESL program, right? So, so like I know the school where my kids went to elementary school when we lived in Dallas had something like 14 or 16 different languages and dialects of the kids in the ESL program, because they were from all over the place. And so it was not possible for the ESL teachers to teach using translation. You can't teach using translation if you don't speak the language, right? And that's kind of where Old Pond came from too, right? That idea of immersion. So, I don't know why it couldn't work.
Yeah, it seems like it would also bring socialization between Hebrew speakers and English speakers that otherwise are, you know, sitting there listening to each other talking, not knowing what the other one's saying. If you had them, like you say, cross-pollinate.
Right. I mean, the only my hesitation would be is that again, you know, because we're using simplified grammar, we're using, it really isn't an immersion program. It really isn't the goal. If your goal is fluency, you need to go beyond this. This is the beginning.
In early childhood, I mean, fluency also comes from watching others do. In early childhood, they're like sponges.
Right.
So I mean, I've seen in my background, I've seen children who came from China or other countries that came in being the only one not speaking any English, and by the end of the year speaking fluently. And so, that's in early childhood. Because everything, all those numbers.
Right. Yeah. They're still mapping all those neural pathways.
I'm sure that most of the people here are familiar with Ooga Ooga, this song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I work with 3 years old. I mean, they'll be 4, 3, 2.5. And when I do that dance, the children that are not familiar with any English, they'll join just because they want to be part of the group. And then within a second, they know what Lashevet and Lakum. So whenever I'll say Lashevet and Lakum, they already know it. So this is an example of something natural that happens with a program like this.
Right. And one of the things we didn't talk about is you can bring music into this. Or you can reinforce. You can use music as reinforcement, and the Ooga Ooga song is one that's definitely talked about. In my previous school, our dance teacher worked with our K1 teacher. This is a very small school, but the dance teacher worked with the K1 teacher to come up with a dance that used all of the commands that the kids have learned up until that time. So yeah, I mean, there are lots of different ways to play with it. Once you've got that foundation there are lots and lots and lots of different ways to play with it. And that's where being part of a community of but that's where being part of a community of practice can
be helpful, right?
Can really be helpful. So, so this is kind of my next steps piece. Whoopsie, I didn't mean to do that. The next steps, so HebrewThroughMovement.org is the website. The curriculum guide's there for free. The videos are there for free. The registration for the online course is there. And then there's also the Facebook group that Hebrew Moves Me. And again, I'll send this, I'll give this to Deborah and she can email that out to everybody.
And as I said, the Federation is willing to sponsor 75% of the cost of this course if So we'll talk, we'll send you more information exactly, if you're interested to go deeper into this, how to go about it.
How
But there
do
is a lot of
I?
stuff that's already available for you online free.
That course is
Oh,
available.
and-
Is 10 hours within the next year, or how does that work?
It's, you could tune into it at any time. It's not live, it's recorded, so that's at your pace.
And actually, we have a guest with us. Hi, Nechama.
Hi, everybody.
Is there anything that you would like to add with our group here? Can you see everybody? We have quite a large group here.
Wow, I do. I can't see any faces, but okay. Yes.
So this is Nechama Moskowitz, who wrote the curriculum guide, and she has graciously agreed to join us here for a little while.
Thank you very much.
So I'm happy to be here, and I heard only like the last 5 minutes of your conversation, which was very rich, and I'm glad that Stephanie pulled the group together with the help of Federation, it sounds like, to make this happen. I'm happy to answer questions. Just a few things that I would say to get started, and I don't know exactly what Stephanie said, so I'm going to try not to say anything she might have said. Hebrew Through Movement, well, first of all, it was actually developed by Dr. Lifsa Schachter, and what I did was help support her in the creation of the curriculum, and when she retired, I stepped in, and some other people have stepped in to help it spread the magic. I think it's been in existence for about 12 years. It could be 15. We never really counted exactly. And we've had over 1,000 people trained in Hebrew Through Movement through the online seminar. And that represents about 350 different congregations, early childhood and day schools. Mostly, though, congregations or after-school programs. And what I keep hearing from the field is how it has shifted what is happening with Hebrew learning. We know that kids, or we've heard kids in the past say things like, I just don't get this whole thing about learning Hebrew. You know, I go to the public school, private school, and I learn French, I learn Chinese, I learn whatever. I can understand it, I can speak it. And Hebrew has always been, or at least for the last, I'm going to say 40, 50 years, has been, you know, these nonsense to them, because what do they know? Just the sounding out of words, the decoding of words that connect to prayers. And so it never quite felt like learning a language, and Hebrew Through Movement allows us in a part-time setting very quickly, just about 15 minutes each time the kids meet, to get them to a level not of communication, but of comprehension and feeling like they really understand what this is. And when I came in, I saw that you had the Pesach video up, which to me, as Stephanie and I have had conversations about, is the exemplar of what this is, especially in our part-time settings, that we can use Hebrew Through Movement to get our students to understand pieces of the prayers and blessings that they never would have understood before. And that's indeed what happened with that particular lesson on Pesach, and it's happening with holiday lessons, and it's happening with other kinds of prayers and blessings learning. I'm glad that Stephanie shared the various resources. I would say that a key one truly is, besides the curriculum guide, is this online seminar. We have people who have looked at the resources that are online, and they've worked to make it happen. But from our experience, we've learned that if you can really follow the formula, especially in the beginning before you start doing other things, it makes a huge difference in how you understand it and how your kids get it in a very efficient kind of a way. And the last thing I'll say is that for teachers who are not teaching Hebrew Through Movement, there are things that you can do that help support the teacher that's doing the Hebrew Through Movement. For instance, being in the room and actually doing the stuff with the kids. Trying it on your own, you need to line kids up. You can say, Lakum, Alechet El Hadelet, once you get to that point. You can encourage your kids to join in with great spirit and gusto. And you probably will hear at some point kids starting to speak. We find that, you know, like the person who goes into a closet and tries language, the kids will just start using it in various ways, in the halls and so on. And if you can let your Hebrew through movement teacher know that you heard something, it means that the kids are moving beyond just the passive stage into a stage where indeed they can help, when we do the review segment of this, they can help be the leader in that. So I'm very excited that you're thinking about this in Houston, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has, if anything.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Does anyone have questions?
What do you do when you have people speaking children in the class with non-speaking people?
It depends on the kid and so on. Usually I've heard that they are helpers, that there are times where they can give the commands faster than the other kids learn. Like we generally say, as a baby doesn't speak for the first, it's a long period of time before a baby starts to speak. When you learn a language, there's a silent period, especially when it's acquisitional. So for the other kids, it's going to take, we usually figure about 10 hours of Hebrew through movement learning before they start to speak. That's the general guideline that LIFSA gave us. And the Israeli kids, it's a different kind of Hebrew, even for day school kids who may be learning Hebrew otherwise. They're jumping and they're spinning and they're doing all kinds of fun things. And if you do it towards holidays and you do it towards, towards prayers and blessings, it's not very different, but it's just a different kind of Hebrew than what they're used to doing. So I would just have them join in and hear what their feedback is along the way without saying, oh, I think this might be easy for you. Looking forward to you being a leader in the class. Thank you very much. All of that.
Any other questions? Actually, I have one question regarding the structure. Is this typically done, so it's a 15-minute segment? You typically do this at the beginning of class, or do they go through class and do it at the end, or?
So that depends on your program and your structure. There are two basic ways that teachers work with Hebrew through movement. One is you're a classroom teacher, you have enough Hebrew to help this happen, and you decide when in the period you want it to be. If your kids are low energy in the beginning, that could be a reason to do Hebrew through movement. It could be a reason to wait till later on. It could be that if they're high energy, it could gather the energy depending on your kids, or it could be you go, I'm doing this at the very end of the day and I'm going to send them out the door to, the next teacher or to their parents. So that's part of it. The other structure that we have is that there are specialists, and actually that works very, very well. We have most programs, I think, have moved to a specialist piece because they just don't have teachers who have the Hebrew ability to make this happen or the comfort. And so a specialist will either come into the classroom or the kids will come to them, and it just depends when that's scheduled. So, we have programs here in Cleveland where the class may go at the beginning of the period, in the middle of the period, or at the end of the period, and it's just a scheduling, whatever happens.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
So we use a specialist, and that she's scheduled throughout the morning. So she's with each class for 15 minutes or so, and so she's moving through the various topics of the day.
So I'm teaching Hebrew for the first time to kindergarten and first graders. And so should we be, I'm starting with Aleph, basically. Should we be doing a standard curriculum in addition to this? Like at the same time? It doesn't replace it.
Did you say you start with Aleph, so you do pre-primer things?
Yeah, basically they're starting with learning the alphabet and learning words that begin with this and practicing writing the letters and,
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would say, I'm sorry. Is there something else to add?
No, she's asking if you would still do that even when you're introducing Hebrew through movement as well.
So Hebrew through movement can complement anything that you're doing. And so if you're doing pre-primer, it can complement it. If you're doing Bierman House in 3rd grade, it can complement. You're doing Torah Ora in 4th grade, it'll complement it. It's just time taken to do this. We have many schools, though, that have, There's Hebrew through movement as a model, and then there's also behind it, and Stephanie, as you know, this is like a whole different conversation. There's a philosophy of shifting the way we do Hebrew completely in our settings, which is to be less about decoding. You know, does it really take 5 years for kids to get the decoding? And do we want to then shift it, and we want to move from what we call sound to print? And so it could be, we have many, many programs that have taken the pre-primer stuff out of their K1-2s, and they just do Hebrew through movement in that 15-minute time where they would have done the Aleph, Bet, and all that. I wouldn't make any change like that this year because you're in the middle of whatever you're doing. And if you bring in Hebrew through movement, I would do it as a complementary piece. And then you'll decide philosophically how you want that to happen for you, and how, like, there are bigger things, as I said, related to Hebrew. Hebrew through movement is one piece of other things you could be doing to completely turn Hebrew learning on its head.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to see you're all dry, and everybody around the country keeps thinking about you guys. So stay dry and do well, and, you know, enjoy Hebrew.
Hugs to everybody in Cleveland.
Thank you, I will. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Before we wrap up, are there any other logistical questions or questions about next steps or pieces part?
Definitely.
Well, thank you all so much.
Stephanie, we want to thank you. As we said today, there's a story that Tom that someone came to Rockville and said, "Can you teach me the Torah on 1 foot?" So this is not, you cannot learn this on 1 foot, but today we give you a little taste, and hopefully you will go and explore a little deeper. As I said, we're going to send you information about the class. We're willing to sponsor the teachers. And so we're going to ask that question. We're going to pose it out there. Those who want to join and come in physically here and watch the videos, and those who can't come in and would like to Zoom in to do it at their own time. So we'll be sending you out information and some questions, and there might be room to do both. And we'd love to see how this develops, and like what you're saying, community practice is something very exciting. Before you leave, if you didn't take, there's a professional development scheduled for you for congregational school teachers and for day school teachers. And again, I'm here for you as a resource for help, consultation. Call me if you need any help. Email me, best to reach me probably by email. And we're here at the Federation to help you find material or anything. We're here to help. And before you leave, if you need, we have some interesting posters and some games in Hebrew. And so take a look.
And if anybody wants to come to Emmanuel and observe a class on a Sunday morning, I
have to tell you, because I am Hebrew speaking, but I learned Hebrew. I was originally from Russia. So I learned Hebrew in Israel. This is the only way to learn Hebrew. That's how I learned Hebrew in Israel. Because when the teacher first time came into the room, she didn't start to teach us out back, by movements. Shalom, Katarim, and stuff like that, by pointing on objects. First we started to talk. And then that was the only way. That's actually, it said at some point that it's not fun, yes it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So the reason why I was asking is I never knew what I've been doing is I've been starting out my classes and then it's just a warm up with various props and things like that. We do something similar, but not exactly what you're doing. I mean, it's not just basically something. And so, like I've got a football, right? And so I started out and said, initially, it works, but that's what I was asking when they're doing it.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, you were laughing.
Yeah, I've got one too, but I don't have the time to ramp up a something like this.
I feel like
But you can see it when they start doing the music videos, so you're like, that's what that means, right?
I don't know if we can
Thank you very much. That's my sixth time seeing this.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and then not just very active
So now I two. No, 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Just taking coffee.
I have these. I'll show you what I have these. So you replace where you want to.
Wait, so they're really clear, so I don't take the rubber test and over to.
I am there because Marlon left.
See, they're like little.
They're little yellow caps.
Yeah, so they have the cough syrup inside, so.
No, I don't either. It's gross, but I'll do it.
I hate it.
I'll do it.
But I have it. Mine's really, I had root tests. I'm gonna
basically
basically
picture.
cough. I coughed from years ago. So when I had this problem, you know, back then I tried to chick this. And I love it. Now good. So now.
No, I'm just trying to take cough medicine. Whenever I take it, I get better the next day. Like yesterday, I was fine. Yeah, that too. That was. I'll take 2 for.
Change.
Yeah, let me give you my card.
Oh, it's open.
This will be for.
I think it's really important to teach the next generation, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my soul. You understand what I'm saying? I want to do it because